version of Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol that I adapted and directed is touring the UK. And I was, excuse my cold again, I couldn't resist going to Edinburgh, as I go there virtually every August for the festival, for the Fringe. It's great to see it out of Fringe mode, but as I say, it's still a very beautiful city, very beautiful city. But before I went, I popped into our local bookshop and picked these up. I thought I'd share them with you now, because they are both new books as we speak. Oh, books on my bag. I try and favour, whenever I can, smaller independent bookshops. I mean, we've got some great chains here in the UK. I mean, Waterstones do a great job. They also cleverly have a local writers sector, so wherever you are in the country, there's always a section featuring local writers. I've got to get my book into the local one. Anyway, we'll work on that. But failing that, if there's an option of a smaller independent bookshop, I always go there. And this is a new bookshop that's just opened in West London. But this is what I bought. A small tome from Alan Bennett called Killing Time. Alan Bennett, I think, is celebrating his 90th birthday this year. He used to write, well, I mean, he's written a lot, of course, hasn't he? I'll tell you about that in a moment. But he did a diary in a magazine called The Literary Review a few years ago. I think he was probably in his late 70s, early 80s, and decided that he'd probably have to give up cycling around London, as he found he was losing his balance occasionally. I just love the idea of cycling around London, because I tend to as well. So Alan Bennett, Killing Time. I'll just read you this introduction so you can get an idea for it. We have a choir, and on special occasions a glass of dry sherry. It's less of a home and more of a club, and very much a community. Presided over by the lofty Mrs. McBride, Hilltop House is a superior council home for the elderly. Among the unforgettable cast of staff and residents, there's Mr. Peckover, the deluded archaeologist, Phyllis the knitter, Mr. Creswell and the ex-cruise ship hairdresser, the enterprising Mrs. Foss, and Mr. Jimson, the chiropodist. COVID is the cause of fatalities and the source of darkly comic confusion. But it's also the key to liberation. A staff are hospitalised, protocol breaks down, Miss Rathbone reveals a lifelong secret, and the surviving residents seize their moment, arthritis allowing to scamper freely into the warmth of the summer sun. There's a quote here, Violet. She'll be having a little lie down, said Mrs. McBride. She likes to give her pacemaker a rest. I'll rout her out. I haven't actually read it or started to read it yet, but it's great community, and obviously the History Boys. It's got its own bookmark, which I'm quite like. Oh, I've got two. I didn't realise that. Naughty me. And just to tell you a little bit about Alan Bennett, although, excuse me, if you're in England, you'll know, or if you're in Britain, you'll know all about him anyway. Alan Bennett has been a leading dramatist since Beyond the Fringe in the 1960s. His work for stage and screen include Talking Heads, 40 Years On, The Lady in the Van, A Question of Attribution, The Madness of George III, an adaptation of The Wind in the Willows, The History Boys, The Habit of Art, People in Cocktail Sticks and Alleluia. His collection of prose are Writing Home, Untold Stories, which won the Pen Ackley Prize in 2006, and Keeping On, Keeping On. His pandemic diary, House Arrest, was a Sunday Times bestseller. Six Poets contains Bennett's selection of English verse, accompanied by his commentary. His fiction includes The Uncommon Reader and Smut, the unseemly Too Unseemly Story. And then credits for the design and the illustration and the author photograph, Anthony Coulter, and paper's pattern, paper adapted from a French Petit Bois label in 1920. So it's kind of a cute little book, isn't it? As I haven't started it yet, I haven't read it, but I might try and get down to it over Christmas. He's one of the kind of Oxbridge boys, those sort of people who are fortunate enough to be able to go to very good universities and be told from an early age that they can do what they want to do, which in my case didn't happen, being from a council estate, a housing project, I think they call them in America. So I love the fact that his whole life is about writing. And Beyond the Fringe, which I don't remember, but of course some of the roots of the Edinburgh Fringe were because of Beyond the Fringe, kind of linked. Beyond the Fringe was a television show on the BBC back in the 60s, and it was very, very popular and very funny. Alan Bennett was much involved with those. So that's kind of cute. Let's just have a look here as well. This is a book that it came from, there we go, Chiswick, West London, Hammersmith, West London. And this shop is called Everybody Reads. And they're a new shop, a small bookshop. I think they've only got the one outlet. It's on Chiswick High Road, W4, if you're ever in the area. Look them up, because they're quite a good bunch. They've got a little loyalty card as well, which I quite like the idea. A place to pause, breathe, browse, learn, discover, connect, giggle and grow. Everybody Reads. Oh, and I should just say, because someone sent me a message about sponsorship. This isn't I bought these books, they don't know I'm doing this. Once you call it a sponsored video, no, it's not a sponsored video. But this is interesting. Dan Jones, Henry V, Dan Snow, a historian, well known again in the UK. Yet another Dan Jones book I wish I'd written. And Lucy Worsley, excuse me, again quite a famous historian, a masterclass in making the medieval addictively readable. And that's what she says, an astonishing rise of England's greatest warrior king. I suppose the Henry V famous story, of course, is the Battle of Agincourt in 1415 in Agincourt, France. But I've done a version of Shakespeare's Henry V. I actually did it. I wrote it in 1992, which is a long time ago. And we're actually thinking of maybe touring it at the end of next year. There's only one actor has to fight the Battle of Agincourt, and although there's humour in it, it's not a comedy. So I thought I'd kind of look at this. So again, I'll share this with you. We've got some great reviews on the back. Wildly gripping, swashbuckling, battle-scarred and blood-splattered in equal parts, ferocious, dynamic and political, intimate and humane, the best biography yet of England's greatest king. Let's go on to the front and back sheets. Here's Dan Jones, Sunday Times and New York Times best-selling author, many non-fiction books including The Plantagenets, The Templars and Powers and Thrones. He's a renowned writer, broadcaster and journalist. He's presented dozens of TV shows including the Netflix series Secrets of Great British Castles, and writes and hosts the podcast This Is History. Oh, I'll look at that. He's a fellow of the Royal Historical Society. Some of his other books here, The Templars, The Crusaders, Power and Thrones. The Plantagenets is quite interesting. Of course, Richard III. Another Shakespeare play that I've started to play around with. I read a one-person version of that a while ago, which hasn't actually been out yet, but it might be. Richard III, interesting character, but we're here to talk a bit about Henry V. So, here we go. Although these are historical figures, they have such a bearing on our lives even today, most of them. Wherever we are in the world, there's a sort of fascination. Henry V reigned over England for only 9 years and 4 months and died at the age of just 35. But he looms over the landscape of the late Middle Ages and beyond. The victor of Agincourt was remembered as the acme of kingship, a model to be closely imitated by his successors. William Shakespeare, as we mentioned, William Shakespeare deployed Henry V as a study in youthful folly, redirected to sober statesmanship in the dark days of World War II. Henry's victories in France were presented by British filmmakers as examples for a people existentially threatened by Nazism. Churchill called Henry a, quote, gleam of splendour in the dark, troubled story of medieval England. While for one modern medievalist, Henry was quite simply the greatest man who ever ruled England. For Dan Jones, Henry is one of the most intriguing characters in all medieval history, but one of the hardest to pin down, a hardened warrior, yet also bookish and artistic, a leader who made many mistakes, yet always triumphed when it mattered. As king, he saved a shattered country from economic ruin. Here we go. And in foreign diplomacy made England a serious player once more. Yet through his conquests in northern France, he sowed the seeds of calamity at home in the form of the Wars of the Roses, which of course is part of the Plantagenet story. Dan Jones' Life of Henry V stands out for the generous amount of space it allots to his long royal apprenticeship, the critical first 26 years of his life before he became king. It is an enthralling portrait of a man with a rare ability to force his will on the world. But above all, it is an unmissable account of England's greatest king from our best-selling medieval historian. It cost me 25 quid. And again, I haven't started this yet. And there's some, because I know he was born in Monmouth. Is that Monmouth? Oh, it is Kenilworth Castle. I can't get the photos in, sorry about that. But, and I can't credit the photographers, sorry. Battle of Agincourt, of course, tactical masterclass in. And lots of good luck, but there we go. He was born in Monmouth, of course, in Wales, down there. I'm a very great fan of Wales. Aberystwyth, we often go there in the summer. And you can see it's Coventry, Kenilworth, Warwick, Birmingham's not here yet, because although Birmingham is now Britain's second city, it wasn't kind of invented in medieval times. Coventry, Kenilworth and Warwick all were. So it's a fascinating look at the early 15th century. Of course, Ireland as well. My folks were from over this way, from County Mayo. So I'm thinking it's going to be an interesting read. I think fairly academic, but not too academic. I think Dan Jones is quite good for that. And it might give me a few bits more inspiration for my touring theatre show, which hopefully we're going to do next year. With the time, oh crikey. Oh, it's not too bad. I'll call a halt there, but thank you so much for your company again, and also if you've subscribed, thank you so much for that. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers so that we can monetize YouTube. I think this is how it works. And then use that to commission some new writing, some new ASMR stories, effectively. But yeah, so we're over 700 subscribers now. It's brilliant. So thank you very much if you have. And if you haven't, perhaps you could click the button wherever it is down here and subscribe. It's also lovely to hear your comments as well. I hope you found this fairly relaxing, albeit about a warrior king. And it's coming up to Christmas at the moment. Obviously, when I'm recording this, when you're watching it, who knows? But have happy holidays. I should probably do another video in the next week. mentioned a lot of times I discovered ASMR when I actually had COVID, and it was a great comfort to me. So thank you for your time and your company. And until next time, as we say, bless us all.